everyone, and welcome to the Snack Bar. My name is Gerry, and with me I have...
Hi, I'm Jedd.
Yes, so this is a very exciting episode because we are going to talk about a movie that's a little bit close to home. Some say it takes place in our home. It is Crazy Rich Asians, and I think we should just... Before we get into that, I think we should talk about other movies that we've watched that we want to talk about. And I want to say something first.
Yes.
I watched this Singaporean horror, quotation marks, horror film.
Oh no, are we talking about 2359?
2359.
Oh no. Okay, go ahead.
You watched that?
I did not.
Oh, good. Don't watch that. It is absolutely terrible. It is that I don't understand why it exists,
Long
but
sigh
I'm
noises.
glad. I'm glad someone gave money to a Singaporean director to do something like this.
To Gilbert
that's
Chan.
not traditionally Chinese morals, where they talk about ghosts and stuff. And there are Singapore horror films. It's nice to delve into a genre, I guess, for Singaporeans, because we are a lot about morals and stuff like that. So it's cool to see a sort of morally wrong film like 2359. It's terrible. Like, it is, the storytelling is horrible, and the main character is unlikable and so dumb, and it's not scary at all, and I'm someone who's easily scared.
It's Noah Yap, right, who's the main character.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I didn't bother
one of the
looking
actors
up.
from Our Boys to Men.
And how do I say, the story structure is, it's very weird because the main character tells horror stories. By the way, he doesn't proofread his stuff, which I find kind of odd. Like, he writes horror stories related to NS because he is from NS, and he has this weird social, I think he has some social issues going on with him. I forgot what it's called. I feel like he's a sociopath, but whatever. And
Okay, yeah.
and he keeps writing this stuff during 7th month. So obviously, apparently a ghost came after him because of that. And that's like 40 minutes of an 80-minute film. And I have never sat through an 80-minute film that felt so long. The editing is very weird. The ghost itself is not that scary. And I hated the ending, but... whatever. It's a film.
And this is actually a sequel,
it's barely a
right?
film, but it's something. I heard that it's a sequel, but
yeah.
I had no idea. And apparently there was another film called 2359 from Singapore. I've never heard of that before. I watched it because I was just hoping there'd be a funny horror film, like attempt at a horror film, but it's not even funny. It's just very offensive, and I didn't like it at all. But I do think that it's nice that Singaporeans get to do genre films instead of being preachy about being Singaporean, I guess.
We have a bunch of these movies coming up. There's one called Zombie Pura that's supposed to be a zombie film. And then there's another one from Sam Low. That one looks kind of scary, actually. He's the guy who did like Seal Up. He's known for making these erotic thrillers, but he's doing a horror movie. And then there's also a movie in which Nathan Hartono plays a zombie who is also a ghost. But yeah, the thing is that the Singaporean film scene, I think it's still very much, on one end you're making things for the uncles and aunties in the heartland, and then on the other end it's very highbrow, like Bu Jun Feng stuff that goes to Cannes, and there's nothing in between. So and especially in the English language, there's nothing in between.
Yeah.
So
and this one was in the English language.
Sorry?
Most of it anyway. This was in the
so
English language.
That's
film.
encouraging, I think, that there's room for that to grow. Like, movies in English in Singapore that are led by younger actors. There's a movie, I think, I forgot who did it, but it's a notable local filmmaker, either Calvin Tong or Eric, who called Republic of Food. And it's kind of like a dystopian satire in which all the food in Singapore is outlawed and replaced by like a synthetic food product called PHOOD food. So I love that concept. I think that's kind of fun. I think it has Adrian Pang in it. So it's and it has a cameo from like KFC To as the ringleader of an underground like food club. So, there are ideas that resonate with Singaporeans that you don't need like an enormous budget to kind of pull off. And all of this is a roundabout way of saying, please let me do my VR Man reboot. I've been sitting on this for years.
You just need the right people to say yes to you.
Yeah, that's...
How about this? My sister knows Felicia Chin personally, so... Well, that's my cat.
Hi, cat!
She wants to eat.
Hi, cat. Crazy rich felines.
Yeah, she is rich for a cat. Anyway, so what else have you seen, Jedd? Sorry, I just wanted to get that off my chest. That 2359 was pretty terrible.
No worries. Yeah, I mean, the past few months have been the summer movie season. So it's kind of like after Ant-Man came out, I was like, are we going to do an Ant-Man episode? And after Incredibles, and maybe we'll do that together. And after Ocean's 8 came out. But we have both been busy. You've been busy. And then it's sort of like stacked up on top of each other. So let's do kind of like a summer movie roulette. You can just pick one of the blockbusters from a few of the blockbusters from the past few months, and I'll talk a little bit about it. We've probably both seen like several. Yeah. Okay, let's do Mission Impossible then.
Mm-hmm.
This is pound for pound the best thing I have seen this summer. It's very, very good.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it's, you know how the Oscars, they just introduced the most popular film category or whatever?
Yeah, insert vocal equivalent of an eye roll here, yeah.
Yeah, and people are saying Black Panther is gonna win that. I'm sorry, Mission Impossible, I think like that should win it. I understand, I do understand why Black Panther, is the front runner because of how significant it is, especially in America. But as a film, without looking anything else, I think Mission Impossible is better structured. The story flows better. The story is not very good, I feel, but the characters are fun. The main character is the main character and isn't, overshadowed by anyone else. And the set pieces are so amazing, and a lot of them are something that you don't see very often.
Yeah.
Like, it's very cool. And some parts reminded me of Uncharted, which I like a lot. And from my favorite Uncharted game. So that's cool. I'm biased,
Which is your favorite
but,
Uncharted game?
Uncharted 2.
Drake's Fortune?
I have no idea. I don't think it's Drake's Fortune. It's the one in the mountains.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the sequences in this are insane. The helicopter chase at the end is nuts. Like, the feeling I had after this movie is the feeling that I want to have, like, after every movie where you're just really pumped and really buzzed and you're like, yeah, that's what movies are all about, You're sort of, like, jumping up in your seat and going, oh, let's do that again, It, like, that feeling of being taken on a thrill ride and seeing people who are the best at what they do pull off some amazing things. And I feel like this movie really, really made people sit up and notice Christopher McQuarrie as an action director, because what you said is true. You can follow everything. You know where everyone is in the space. One action leads to another action. This is very good action filmmaking, very good cinematography and editing, and the way the sequences are conceived. Like what you said, the plot is true. This is almost identical to the fourth movie in that someone has a nuke. We need to stop the nukes from going off. So that's a standard kind of... in terms of plot, like the plot in the previous movie in Rogue Nation is more interesting because it's more of a spy craft, more like who is being played against who, and that one is a bit more of a spy movie, and this one is more of an action movie.
I find what's really incredible about this film is that it manages to surprise you, or maybe it's just me, a lot.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
There was one part in the middle of the film where I was like, what kind of hypocrisy is this? Why is this person saying this? And it's like, it's actually a very good setup to what happens after that.
Yeah.
Because they did set it up right in the beginning what this person thinks of this other person. And when you kind of realize that there's something off about that, you just think that it's bad writing, but it's not. It's really smart, brilliant setup and payoff. And the fight scene in the bathroom is so brutal, and I I felt every punch of that, and it's really cool how, spoiler alert, Ethan Hunt and Superman couldn't really win against the Chinese guy,
Oh yeah,
but
yeah.
they just got lucky. That was really cool.
Like in that, I mean, movies like this, you want to have a combination of humongous set pieces and very visceral hand-to-hand, like close quarters combat that you can feel, and this pulled that off very well because it's a movie in which it has the bathroom fight, but it also has the Paris bike chase. It also has the London rooftop chase. It also has the helicopter thing at the end, which is nuts. And I had someone I was talking to someone who saw the movie, and she asked me, was there any CGI in this at all? And I think that that's what every visual effects supervisor working on an invisible visual effects movie wants to hear. You want to hear someone watch a movie and go, yeah, I didn't notice it. And of course, there's lots and lots of visual effects in the movie, but it's so seamless. It's so beautifully done. Like the Paris chase, you're just like, how did they do that? You know, how did they shut all of Paris down?
Yeah, this film is amazing. I think that I'm not sure whether Paddington 2 counts because it came out last year, but according to Americans, it's considered a 2018 movie. Which I saw, by the way, amazing film.
Paddington 2, yeah, Paddington 2 is great.
I think that this is the best blockbuster film so far. Mission Impossible Fallout.
Yeah.
Like it is an amazing cinema experience. And the way you keep wondering how Ethan Hunt is gonna get out of a situation, and watching Tom Cruise run is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's like
so
a bit
fast.
of a religious experience, like watching him run places. Yeah, it's so good.
Run across the roof, and oh my god, it's so good.
Yeah, and I'm also very happy anytime I see Simon Pegg in something. I'm like, you know, you deserve it. You deserve the success. You deserve to be in all these franchises. You go. Okay, yeah. Incredibles 2. What did you think?
I liked it.
Yeah.
As in, I feel like this way with a lot of Pixar films, I think that they're okay. And I don't really see what people see in Pixar films. I think, except with the exception of Coco and Inside Out, a lot of Pixar films I'm not a huge fan of. I mean, I'm not even counting like Toy Story.
Like you feel like they're overrated.
Monsters Inc. I do feel like they're overrated, but at the same time, because a lot of people say that they're good and I don't agree with them, I feel like it's on me that I don't see it. So I just think that they're fine. I feel, yeah, because I think Pixar films are very emotionally manipulative.
Yeah.
And I don't like that.
I don't think Incredibles 2 does any of that though.
Yeah, it doesn't do any of that. But I think that it is, I think a lot of the action parts are good. I really like the side story with Bob and the kids.
Yes.
Even though I thought I really wanted more of that.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
I mean, whatever.
Because they do feel like a real family. The family dynamics are very believable. And I love how they animated Jack because he's just in the background like doing baby things.
It's just, I find the kid story stuff solved very easily. I thought Bob would struggle a lot more, but yeah, I wasn't really touched by this film. I think Jack is a little bit of a cop-out most of the time. It's okay. Like, a lot of people love the film, and I'm happy for them that, 15 years was worth the wait. But it's okay. I would watch it again, and maybe I'll like it more the second time, but I'm good with just watching it once.
Yeah.
Oh, but the soundtrack is incredible.
Oh yeah, Giacchino doing this like a Nelson Riddle sort of Batman 66 style thing is really great. Like him with the big band stuff, and it's also meant to sound like John Barry's James Bond themes. It's really, really good.
What do you think of this film?
Yeah, I mean, I totally get where you're coming from. I think that waiting 14 years, I was expecting something a little bit more. I thought it was really, really good. I thought that the action sequences were done really well. I love Helen stopping the train. That's magnificent. And I think the design, like they pushed a lot of the design elements further. They pushed the 50s retrofuturism further, and they had fun with that. But I wanted it to be a bit more meta, and I felt like the previous movie, it broke so much ground in that it was Watchmen before Watchmen got adapted into film. It was a movie about what happens when superheroes retire and what is the relationship between superheroes and the public. You know, who babysits the Watchmen basically was the previous movie. So I felt like that one thematically was more sophisticated than this one was. And this one tried to have a bit of commentary on the passive consumption of media. Like the villain is trying to hypnotize people through monitors and video screens. And I think like that was fine, but I could hear people behind me guessing who the villain was.
Yeah.
Like 10 minutes into the thing, and all the other heroes they tried to introduce were not super memorable, and then they had,
And I think the designs weren't even that good.
Yeah.
Like they didn't feel like Incredibles characters.
Yeah, they were like you know, you go to a website where it's like, you know, choose the color of the thing, choose a mask, and then you click go, and then it puts the thing together. That's what it kind of felt like. But I did really like Violet's subplot. I liked how they tried to deal with Tony and the implications of what happens when the two lives collide, you know, when your superhero life collides with your regular life, and the bit where they go to a restaurant and then Bob is trying to embarrass his daughter. I thought that was very cute, very relatable. But yeah, it's I felt like I wanted more for waiting 14 years, but that's also because it is a 14-year wait. And the other cool thing is that, like, you can do this in animated movies, but you can't do this in live-action movies, where you can have a sequel that is released 14 years later, but is set 1 minute after the previous movie. And you can't do that in live-action because everyone would have gotten old.
Yeah.
So I was like, cool, you know, not because a lot of people were saying, oh, this movie is going to be set in real time, like 14 years in the future. They're all going to be grown up. Maybe Dash is going to be the villain, but they didn't do that. And I actually kind of like that they didn't do that. I like that it made you feel like 14 years never just passed like that. So I thought it was a good idea to set it immediately after the first one.
All right. What other significant summer movies?
Yeah, there's a bunch. Okay, let's see. Ocean's 8. A few sentences on that.
Nothing much to talk about.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's okay. I don't remember much from it.
Yeah.
The actual heist was alright.
Yeah.
The plot twist at the end.
Yeah.
It's a little, yeah.
I don't think it was the best use of this amazingly, crazily talented cast. Of this like wish list of people who you put them together in a room and you want them to like just win Oscars together. So it was like
Kate Blanchett wasn't in it a lot as well, and that's like one of my biggest complaints.
Yeah, I know. I love.
I
Kate
felt
Blanchett.
like she wasn't used enough.
But I really liked the chemistry with Sandra Bullock. I like they were kind of
Yeah,
flirting throughout the thing, and they're like, oh, you know, they've known each other for a long time because they're supposed to be like George Clooney and Brad Pitt. And then when they announced the casting and when they said Kate Blanchett is going to be the Brad Pitt type of character, I was like, yeah, that's cool. And I mean, the setting of the Met Gala is neat. I think that's the main thing this movie has going for it, is the celebrity cameos, the procedure. Like, I thought it was kind of fun. You see them, how they plan the Met Gala. You look in the actual offices of Vogue. Anna Wintour is playing herself. So I think that if you're really into fashion and the art world in New York, like, you get a lot out of it. But otherwise, as a heist movie, it's just kind of okay. It's not super engaging.
I just feel so bad for the people that they stole from.
for Cartier, yeah. Because they weren't even evil. Like, I mean, I love my favorite one in the franchise is Ocean's 13, and Ocean's 13 has like Al Pacino as this crazy Donald Trump type casino owner who has very, very orange skin, and he's super egotistical, and he's obsessed with all of his hotels getting the highest rated like Diamond Award. So they go out and sabotage his hotel's rating, and Ocean's 13 is my favorite of the series because I find that the most entertaining.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of wanted something along those lines, and it wasn't as like emotionally satisfying as that. Okay, let's do the China pandering double bill of Skyscraper and The Meg.
Oh, okay. I didn't see Skyscraper.
Okay.
I saw The Meg.
I feel like you'd like Skyscraper, honestly.
I would like Skyscraper.
Yeah, like the father-children story of the Rock having to rescue his kids.
Well, I mean, after seeing Rampage, I just needed a break.
It's a lot better than
from
Rampage,
his
honestly.
ego.
Yeah.
Okay. I watched The Meg.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people hated it. I thought it was really fun.
Yeah.
I thought Jason Statham was amazing in it.
I don't know.
Oh, I mean, he's amazing. I'm sorry. I really like Jason Statham. I think that
It just gives me a chance to talk like
cast-
this. Anytime we discuss a Jason Statham movie, I just have to break the voice out.
I am surprised that the cast there isn't an asshole in the cast at all.
Well,
Like,
Rainn Wilson,
everyone-
I guess.
But I mean, I guess,
He's
but
kind
he
of the rich
wasn't
douchebag.
an annoying. Like you aren't rooting for him to die.
Not
I guess.
really, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people say that the deaths were meaningless and you didn't really care for the characters. I kind of did because they're all like normal people who just got into these terrible situations that I don't know why they're going out instead of calling the authorities on it. But I like the sort of chemistry between Jason Statham and Li Bingbing. Is that her name? I don't know.
Li Bingbing.
The kid was cute. I like that he and his ex-wife had a very
Amicable,
friendly
yeah.
relationship.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, amicable relationship. I think everyone is just nice to each other, and that's what surprised me most about this film. I thought because it's the Meg, right? So it'll be super cartoony, and everyone will be an asshole except Jason Statham, who is so good in everything. But everyone worked out fine, and I liked all of them. They weren't memorable, but I will remember them for being nice, which is cool. I think it's cool that we have this kind of film where no one is a straight up asshole.
Yeah, and
And
especially like for a horror movie. I mean, this is not scary at all, but for a horror adjacent the movie, that's very rare. Horror movies usually you hate everybody and you can't wait for everyone to die.
Yeah, and I really like how the only asshole I feel was the doctor, but he came around pretty fast when he realized that it was his fault. Which, by the way, I disagree that he thinks that what Jason Statham saw was the same shark, because I don't think they went that far. They didn't go that deep, right? So it couldn't have been the same shark, but whatever. I don't care. It's the man. You just want to see. I came here to see Jason Statham punch a shark. I didn't get that, but what we got in the end, I was okay with it.
Close, yeah. Jason Statham
close enough.
Stabbed the shark, question mark.
Yeah. The hero shot was kind of cool. I really enjoyed myself. I think the China scene was really dumb.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah.
really
Sun,
funny.
yeah.
And you could tell that they were having fun with that. That's cool.
The dog.
It's alright.
The dog is the same name as the dog in Jaws, Pippin. So that was a joke there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Pippin, 你杀了 Pippin.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so I mean the kind of the dilemma with reviewing a movie like this is that you know that there's a certain amount of intentional stupidity built into it. So you don't want to hold that against the film. But it's kind of like, how stupid does it get before I'm taken out of it? You know, so like I felt about this actually I think you'll disagree, but I felt about this very similarly to how I felt about Rampage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in terms of it being like a monster movie, but the monster is very, very obviously CGI, and then there aren't really stakes. And I mean, I keep on going back to talking about Jaws, and of course it's unfair to compare every shark movie to Jaws, but why does Jaws work? Jaws works because of those three characters, because of Hooper, Quint, and Brody, and because of you're invested in their dynamic. You sort of see them get at each other's throats, you see them bond, you see them eventually like come around even though they don't really understand each other, and you see what each of their stake in it is. You know, Brody has to protect the people in his town because he's the sheriff, and then Hooper wants to study the shark because he's an ichthyologist. This is a very, very big deal in the world of science. And Quint is the hunter. Quint wants to kill the shark as a trophy. So I felt like in terms of having well-rounded characters on that level, we have not seen a shark movie come close to that. And you're like this is one of those 100,000 times the budget of a sci-fi channel movie, of a mega shark versus sharktopus or whatever, or like there's a movie in which John Barrowman fights a megalodon. That's a very fun movie. Shark Attack 3 Megalodon. So you're kind of like, there's a novelty factor of seeing a movie like that where obviously it's got a much bigger budget than a same premise, same plot kind of thing would get on TV. But then you're like, it doesn't really scratch the itch you want it to scratch. And part of it is because it is PG-13 and it can't be helped, I guess. But yeah, John Turteltaub wanted it a lot gorier and Jason Statham wanted it a lot gorier, and I think they had to. You clearly see them trying to like cut around certain things.
I think in the end, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. Well, I kind of knew that I would enjoy it, but because it's Jason Statham. But
it's a megalodon.
I was just very surprised that the cast didn't annoy me.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah. Skyscraper, do you like that?
Yeah, I thought Skyscraper was okay, honestly. I mean, I liked it for the reason a lot of people hated it, because it is like, it reminded me 100% of Die Hard and of movies like that. And I think Rawson Marshall-Turber was also inspired by Cliffhanger. And like, it's when I watched it with my mom was like, it's so cartoony, it's such a cartoon, you know. But I think that works because Dwayne Johnson is a cartoony kind of action hero. He looks like he came out of a cartoon. So he is a big reason of why it works. And Chin Han is kind of hilarious in it. He's playing like the richest man in the world, and he's very, very stiff through the whole movie. And the villains are hilarious because it's like movie bad guys are us. You know, you open the bag of movie bad guy villains. And here is the European terrorist guy. You know, here is the hacker guy. You know, here is the like sexy henchwoman. You know, who's gonna kick people in the face. And it's so formulaic, and everything follows a formula. But in a funny way, its unoriginality is refreshing because it is the only thing this summer that's not a sequel in terms of the big like action movies. That and the Meg, I guess. So yeah, it's funny because both that and the Meg are very, very like formulaic, and they got made because of China. They got made because like, if it were a big franchise, then it didn't have to lean so heavily on the Chinese financiers.
All right, so let's go on to Crazy Rich Asians right now. I'm really excited.
Do you want to have
talk
like
about
a sentence or two about Ant-Man and the Wasp?
Oh, yes. Oh my god, I totally forgot about Ant-Man and the Wasp. I really liked it.
Yeah, it's fun.
I really, really liked it. I thought it was just as good as the first Ant-Man film.
Cool.
I really love his daughter. She's so adorable.
Yeah, stature.
I love that his ex-wife and her new husband are so supportive of him.
Yes, yeah, when Bobby Cannavale like hugs him, it's very cute.
And Wasp is amazing. I thought Paul Rudd was amazing in this as well.
Yeah.
Everyone just brought their A game. I thought a lot of people hated that cartoony villain
Walton
that
Goggins?
was chasing after them. Yeah,
The Tomb Raider
I
guy.
thought he was hilarious.
Oh, he's very good.
Yeah, the Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
I loved him in this. I really enjoyed this film. I think it's fun, and it really sucks that a lot of people don't like it because they felt like nothing happened. But
Yeah.
sometimes, you know, it's personal stakes. I like personal stakes more than
End of the world
is gonna
stakes.
end.
Yeah, I totally get you. Like, I mean, I don't think I enjoyed it as much as you did. I found it very, very entertaining, and I thought, like, the plot was quite well done. I liked the character dynamics. I thought all the fighting choreography with Wasp and with her specific skill set was awesome. But I guess, like, I'll play devil's advocate, and I think part of why people didn't love it is because that it's a movie that came out in the same year as Black Panther and Infinity War. And those are very, very consequential movies with huge stakes. And after that, you kind of want something that you have a bit more fun with, but at the same time, it feels almost like too light, like almost too
But
like nothing happened.
What did Black Panther do to move forward like the Infinity War kind of storyline?
I think like
Because I thought it was very on its own as well.
I think in a meta way, like what Black Panther meant for the landscape of movies as a whole.
Okay.
Yeah, like
Yeah, okay.
So like I mean, Black Panther has the meaning in that sense. Like it did break a lot of ground. and became like the highest grossing solo MCU movie. And then Infinity War came along and sort of changed everything. So when you have Ant-Man and the Wasp, like, it's great, but it kind of feels like a regression, like we're moving back to a mode that we have seen before, and some people like that and some people don't. So I guess that's the most pragmatic way to approach it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I really liked it.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
I'm
glad
I
I
liked
did
the
too.
villain too. I thought they did a cool job with Ghost. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's completely different from
Okay.
in the comics, and I like that they sort of went off and did their own thing.
Let's talk about Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah,
Jedd,
Crazy Rich Asians.
what is it about? All right, let's break it down to, because I think politics is going to enter this. So we'll talk about
Whatever gave you
let's
that
try to leave
idea?
let's try to leave the political stuff to the end and talk about, after you talk about the premise of the film, maybe talk about your set visit, because I saw that Fiona Xie was crying and I have no idea what that was about.
Okay.
I didn't read your article back when you had it, because I did not watch the film then, and I wanted to go in kind of fresh
Yeah,
to
yeah.
be surprised by it.
Sure, yeah, okay. So, Crazy Rich Asians is based on the 2013 novel of the same name by Kevin Kwan. So, a disclaimer, I haven't read it. Have you read it?
No, I haven't read
Yeah,
it.
so we're just talking about this as a movie, and I think that's okay as well. So, this movie is about Rachel Chu, played by Constance Wu. She's a Chinese-American economics professor at NYU, and she has been dating Nicholas Young, played by Henry Golding, who is a Singaporean, like, very eligible bachelor for the past year, but she doesn't know about his background. So he says, we've been dating for a year now. Let's go back to Singapore. My best friend, Colin, played by Chris Pang, is getting married to his fiancée, Araminta, played by Sonoya Mizuno. So why don't we go home, you can meet the family, and we'll hang out, we'll have like a spring break kind of thing. So she is not prepared for the revelation that he is the heir to the richest family in Singapore, like a real estate development empire. And she has to deal with the wrath of all of the society bachelorettes who thought they stood a chance with Nick Young. They're a bunch of crazy cousins and siblings, and of course, there's the prospective mother-in-law, Eleanor Young, played by Michelle Yeoh, who is not too pleased with the idea that her son has brought back this Chinese-American girl. And at the same time, she has in her corner her friend from college, Peg Lin, played by Aquafina. So her dad is played by Ken Jeong, her mom is played by Ko Cheng Man. And they are very, very rich, but they are unpretentious. They're kind of silly rich. So it's a clash of cultures, like a search for identity. Will true love win, or will the dictates of the insiders, outsiders kind of thing play out instead? That's what Crazy Rich Asians is about.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Mm-hmm. And so talk about that set visit that you went to.
Yeah, okay. So, first of all, thanks, Warners. But also, I'm very angry that you didn't let me go to the famous people screening. The funny thing was that, like, the night of the premiere in Singapore at the Capitol, they literally had another preview screening on the same night. So they said, can you promote our screening at the Capitol? And then I said, yeah, sure, I'll do a Facebook post, whatever. I said, hey, by the way, does this clash with the other thing? Is it? Oh, yeah, that one is the preview screening. So I was literally like, you don't matter, so you're here. Which is actually one of the themes of the film. It's great.
Yeah.
So I totally get how Rachel Chu felt. Yeah, okay, so the set visit took place last year. I think about like May, somewhere around then. And it was the second to last day of filming in Singapore, and it was a night shoot. Very exciting. So we went to Gardens by the Bay, and they were filming the aftermath of the wedding reception at Gardens by the Bay. So I think the previous night they had filmed most of the wedding reception stuff, like the dance floor, the dinner. And that night, the scene we saw them shoot was the confrontation between the grandma, the mother-in-law, Michelle Yeoh, with Rachel and Nick. So that was the scene where, in the trailer, you see her run away. And something's happened in that scene. Like, it's a very dramatic sort of reveal. You remember the scene that I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I
they're
do.
off to a corner in Gardens by the Bay. So the rest of the party stuff was probably filmed earlier.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting because I have done like 1 or 2 set visits in my life, but I had not done like a night shoot set visit. So we arrived at like 11 p.m. and we had lunch at 1 a.m. They called it lunch at 1 a.m. It was kind of fun. And sort of your whole circadian rhythm is thrown off. Everyone is sweating. Everyone's like dying of sweat. And we got to talk to quite a number of people. It was really cool. We got to talk to, I think the first person we talked to was the set designer, Nelson Coates. So it was really, really fun talking to him. He talked about how they like had a bit of movie magic to cheat the Tyersall Park mansion. Is a bunch of different places stitched together. Like the exterior is Kakosa Sirinagara in Kuala Lumpur. The inside is the Chong Fat Zi like mansion, and like the Peranakan Museum, and the gates are Champions Golf Course in Singapore. And then he was saying that the big party boat scene, that was a car park in KL.
Mm-hmm.
And then they use that as like they set the containers around it, and that's kind of fun. And he talked about designing an airline from scratch, Pacific ASEAN Airline, and he is the production designer of the latter 2 movies in the 50 Shades series. So similarly about rich people. I think that's where the similarities end. Then we got to talk to John Chu for a little bit, and it's really, really cool. Like I like John Chu a lot. I think he seems like a really great guy, but a lot of his movies have been not good. Like
All of his movies have been not good.
Yeah.
The Justin Bieber one.
Bieber one, yeah.
The one about the dolls.
Like Gem and the Holograms, Now You See Me Too. But
Yeah.
I did really like G.I. Joe Retaliation, and a lot of people hated that, but I thought it was a really fun like action movie. So yeah, he talked about how that he did not want to do another sequel, and he wanted to do something that was more personal to him, and it was his sister who brought this book to his attention. And yeah, I think like this is a movie that he does have a personal stake in, and it is a movie that is told from an Asian American perspective. So he is he grew up, his parents run a Chinese restaurant, like a very well-known Chinese restaurant in California, in like Los Altos.
Yeah.
Chef Chu's. So if you're ever in the area, and it's kind of interesting because my uncle, actually my cousin, but because of the Chinese generation things, he's older than my mom, but he's my cousin because they have many wives and many kids. He is a friend of Chef Chu's. He runs a restaurant nearby. So like my mom saw on his Facebook, he went to the premiere. I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, and then we talked to Nina Jacobson, who is the producer. She produced The Hunger Games. So
okay.
that's kind of the big deal. Is like the company that made The Hunger Games looked at this book and said this could be the next book to be a big deal as a movie franchise. And a lot of the discussion was people trying to defend the casting of Henry Golding, because at that point of time the controversy was he was half white. It was not yet there are no Malays and Indians in the movie. So the controversy in about this movie kind of came in stages.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at that point of time, like, it was a very uncomfortable question, but everyone seemed quite well equipped, quite prepared to deal with it. And Henry Golding himself was very hesitant to audition for the movie because he kept on saying, I'm not an actor, I'm not an actor, I'm not an actor. I'm a travel host, I'm a presenter. But a lot of people saw a lot in him. And like I think he fit the image that the producers had in their mind. He is very charming. So if you look at it,
very handsome.
he is very handsome. He's trying really, really hard. Like he really wanted to do a good job. And that's what you got from everybody. Everyone said Henry wants to do the best job he can do. And I thought, that's great. And I think that it does show in the movie. And then we got to talk to Michelle Yeoh. I think the best person we got to talk to was Awkwafina, of course. Awkwafina was so much fun. After we ended the interview, I did the Trump handshake with her, and she went along with it. It was kind of funny. I asked her one question. I said, if you had to save either the Ocean's 8 cast or the Crazy Rich Asians cast from a burning building, who would you choose? And then she said, I'm sorry, but I have to choose my own people. The girls can handle themselves.
Oh,
And I thought that was great. That's hilarious.
that's a good answer.
It is. It is
That's
a good answer, right? Because it's like it's complimentary to both. It's
Yeah.
but it's also like I will leave Sandra Bullock to die, and I kind of love that. That's hilarious. Rihanna can go and hang out. Yeah, we talked to a lot of people. It was crazy. We got to talk to Fiona Xie, and Fiona Xie was very, very emotional. She ended up crying in front of us, and I think she had kind of a rough time in the entertainment industry, especially because she started out when she was a lot younger. So she felt a lot of the pressure from the tabloids and sort of the scrutiny over her dating life, and because she was kind of a sex symbol. So she wanted to stop acting in Singapore, and she wanted to explore, and I think she went to act in Hong Kong for a few years, and she went to LA. And when she said that she auditioned or she sent in a tape for Astrid, so she tried out for the role that Gemma Chan got, but then the producers were interested in looking at her for Kitty Pong, for the sort of crazy Hong Kong soap opera star / like porn actress role that she had in the end. And she said that she consulted with a personal friend who's a pastor about the direction of her career, whether or not she should take this on. Like, she felt there was a lot of pressure, there's a lot of gravity to it. And she knew that if this movie does well, the next movie is all about her character. China Rich Girlfriend centers on Kitty Pong.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting because, like, I think we all consume celebrity gossip from a distance, but we don't see the effect it has on people up close. And at that moment, I kind of saw it, and we were looking at her, and she had, like, her hair done up, she had the false eyelashes, she was in a bathrobe, and she was all, like, dressed up as Kitty Pong, and she was crying. And it was intense. It's kind of harrowing. I did not have room to write about that in the article. But yeah, so that was interesting. And the other people we met, Ronnie Cheng, he plays Eddie. He's the guy who tells his children to stay still in the photo for the optimal angle. Mm-hmm. He is very funny. He's a very gifted comedian. Yeah. He is.
I can tell.
He's so good. And yeah, he's led an interesting life because he's lived in Singapore, he's lived in Australia, he's lived in the US and Malaysia. So he sort of moved around a lot, and he recently was a correspondent on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. So how he became famous is at the end of 2016, Fox News, they had this awful segment that like really made me quite upset and made a lot of people quite upset, where Jesse Waters went to Chinatown and just mocked people and sort of made fun of elderly Chinese people for not being able to speak English, and put in like a lot of stereotypical clips from Karate Kid and things like that, and asked people like who are selling goods, is this stuff stolen, and just trying to mock them and paint the Chinese American community as being ignorant because some of them do not speak English. So Ronnie Cheng did a response piece where he went to Chinatown and he spoke to people and he got the real opinions, and he did that as a rebuttal to Jesse Waters. And after that, I was like, I am a fan. This is good. So it was. I didn't expect to. I didn't know he was in the movie. So I didn't expect to see him on the set and get to talk to him and tell him what that meant to me. So that was really cool. Like, I got to be honest, that set visit, I felt like this could be something special. This will mean something. This will mean something to a lot of people. And I couldn't really articulate why, because I did have a lot of hesitation towards this. The main thing, the same thing everyone says, is that this is going to be very materialistic. And that was my hesitation. But after that set visit, I was like, they may have something here.
So let's get into the film.
Yeah, thank you for letting me ramble on. Does that make sense? Was it interesting?
No, this is... yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah, it's I enjoyed doing that.
Because, some people will never get to go to set visits.
No. I'm sure you'll be able to have a lobang, as they say in the parlance. You're in the industry.
No, I'm not. I'm in the game industry. I'm not
in
the
movie
industry.
you were in the film industry.
Yeah. I thought that this film was very average, to be honest. Yeah, but what really worked for me were the romance and the mom, the relationship she had with the mom. I just think like the fault is in the premise. The fault of this entire movie is in the premise, because I've seen Korean dramas that do this all the time, where it's a rich guy, an unapproving mother, and an average girl.
Yeah,
Except
right?
this time
Yeah.
it's Singaporean, and yeah. So it's something I've seen before. It's something that I've seen done better because they have the luxury of time, and they have the luxury of building up characters and making you care about them within 13 hours or something. But this only had 2 hours, so yeah. And I thought the way that they showed luxury in this film, it's alright. I guess it's rich people being rich, but I think because we consume American media a lot, we can see what real richer people can do.
Yeah,
So
if you watch
what
Billions.
I saw wasn't. Yeah. I can watch celebrities answering questions while they walk through their.
Oh
home or
yeah,
something
like the
that.
Esquire 73
YouTube
questions,
videos.
and it's like Taylor Swift's pad. Yeah.
Yeah, and you see that and you just think, oh, those people are rich, and then you look at this and you're like, okay, there's stairs that leads up to other rooms. I get it. And the mansion is kind of big, even though it's sort of tiny in a small plot of land, and I guess they have guards. Which, by the way, I'm not sure which MRT it is or which train station it is where a lot of Americans stay there, and they have huge mansions with guards as well. So I've seen that before. I admire that in real life, but in a film I've seen better. So that rich part didn't really get to me.
Okay, yeah. I thought when they hire synchronized swimmers for a party, I thought, okay, that's a thing rich people would do.
It would be, but
And when they
I feel
they
like
flood a church for effect during a wedding.
see, that was the only time I thought, oh, so this is why the wedding cost that much.
My mom freaked out. My mom said, "What's going on? Why is there water?" And my mom was so concerned. I was like, "She's gonna fall." And my mom went into the full mom mode, and I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. Honestly, that was the only part in the film where I thought, okay, they are really rich.
Right,
Because
yeah.
to do that, that's a lot of maintenance.
Yeah, they flooded chimes.
Yeah. They also took my wedding venue, by the way. Now I can't do it, or else it'd be considered cliche. Because they did that there. And I'm not even a member of that church, so I can't even do it in the first place.
Oh no, because Chimes is not a church anymore. It is that's a function room you can rent. It used to be a convent, but now it's been turned into a mixed use restaurant and function space. Yeah, so I think there are actually concerts held there. Yeah.
Now I know.
Mm-hmm. My mom used to go to school there, I think, when she was young.
What else is there to talk about this film that I thought was average? I thought, oh, sorry. I keep saying, I couldn't tell a lot of characters apart.
Yeah, I get it. I agree.
And I want to talk about the good parts now.
Yes, please.
I was very surprised by the ending of the film, even though they sort of set it up quite well. But I think a lot of smoke and mirrors, and then they show that. I was really surprised by that.
Yeah.
My audience gap said that part as well. The wedding scene was amazing. I felt it was so romantic. I loved it.
Yeah.
The song choices in this film, we'll get into that later more in spoilers.
We will.
I love them.
Yeah. Very, very good use of music. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did tear up twice in this film, in the wedding scene and at the end.
Yeah.
I think that I really like this film. Even though I think it's aggressively average, there are a lot of things that impress me enough to really enjoy. I really enjoyed this film.
That's
I
great,
really
yeah.
recommend this film to people who like romantic comedies.
Yeah.
Although I don't think it's very funny. I think it's a lot sadder than it is funny. I feel the same way about Bridesmaids. Where half of the time in Bridesmaids, I was crying. I wasn't laughing at all.
Right.
Because it felt a little bit too real. The whole growing up process. And this is about someone who is struggling with being American Chinese and realizing that she's different from an Asian Chinese. And I really felt that, as in, I can't relate to that obviously because I am born in Asia and I am Chinese. But I guess empathy for her because I see a lot of because this film came out before. This came out in America before 1 week before us.
Yes.
And I've been reading a lot about how this film means to a lot of them.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
it really does get to me that a lot of them also learn that they are different. But this film made them feel like it's okay that even though you aren't Asian enough, quote unquote, you are still Asian.
Oh
you know?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was an editor of Huffington Post. I mean, I was hung up about it because she's 25 years old and she's the editor at Huffington Post. So I got upset for a little bit, and then I read what she had to say, and she was saying that all her life she's been made to feel ashamed that she's Chinese.
Yeah.
Like her dad would bring her Chinese food in school, and her friends would laugh at her. And then, like in school, there would be people who would make fun of her and said she has funny shaped eyes. And during Halloween, she would see people dress up as Asian tourists with like their eyes taped back and with cameras around their necks. And her teacher asked her, "Is this offensive?" And she said, "No, it's not. Let's just go and play along." And I mean, this is also around the same time that we have heard the New York Times editorial by Kelly Marie Tran talking about what it is to grow up ashamed of who you are, being second guessed. Like when she goes to dinner with her boyfriend, the waitress says, "Oh, how cute, you have an exchange student." And they don't even mean it offensively, but it's just so natural for them to say something like that. So yeah, this movie means a lot to a lot of people. And I actually really love your review. I think that I agree with you on a lot of the points. Like as a movie itself, it is average. It is doing a lot of things that we have seen done better, but it there's a part of it that does strike a chord. There's a part of it where you're like, this movie is saying something and it is touching on something that hasn't quite been addressed in that exact way. And yeah, when I watched it, my first impression was that this is a very entertaining sort of romantic comedy, very deliberately fluffy, deliberately light, but it's also trying to say something. And it doesn't say it with a lot of depth because it doesn't want to get too heavy, but it is a story about diaspora. It is a story about what it means to belong or not belong. In the beginning of the movie, Rachel tells her mom she's going to see her boyfriend's family in Singapore. She says, "I'm Chinese, they're Chinese. What's the difference?" Right? And her mom says, "你看起来是华人，你讲的是华文。But here and here, you're different, and she points to the heart and to her head." And I was like, that's what the movie's about. That's what the movie's about. It's like, do you get to call yourself an insider or an outsider? There's a scene where Michelle Yeoh explains the Hokkien phrase, "kaki lang," which is literally like one of us, our own people. And it's like, what does it mean to be one of us? And I was like, yeah, to see this explored in a Hollywood movie is kind of a big deal.
I am very guilty of saying how Asian Americans aren't really Asians. And it's true, they aren't. Because they grew up so differently from us. They have different lifestyles and they have different mentalities from us. And something like the prom dress incident.
I remember.
A lot of Asians were like, it's nothing wrong. She's just wearing a cheongsam. And to be honest, whenever a Chinese wears a cheongsam, it's mainly for Instagram. It's not anything deeper than that. Most of the time.
It's not ascribed the meaning.
But a lot of Asian Americans got very upset by that. And there was a point where I'm like, I don't understand why. This isn't your culture. You didn't grow up on this culture, so why should it mean so much to you? But the problem with Asian Americans living in America is that in America they see you as Asians.
Absolutely.
So they will come after you for your culture, and to see someone like a white person wear your culture that you've been mocked for your entire life
and getting praised for it. Yeah, it's very threatening.
And also getting the support of Asians as well, who are supposedly your people.
Oh yeah,
and I think
absolutely.
A lot of I hate that video where they went to China or something and they asked Chinese people how you feel about this person wearing a cheongsam, because they are not the people who are getting offended by it. It's the people who grew up in America being mocked for who they are, who they look like, and not who they look like, but who they look.
What
I mean,
what
how
they look like, yeah.
Yeah, what they look like. And I really think that it's good that this film really tackles on how we are different. We cannot be the same. Like, there is no way we are the same because we grew up so differently from each other.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we shouldn't demonize them for having American mindsets because they have probably been demonized in America as well. And we should be more accepting of how they are part of us.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
yeah, like this, it took me this film to realize that. And I feel really bad. Because I've always felt that way. Like the prom dress thing, I really did not get at all. I did not get for the longest time until this film came out and I started reading the terrible things that Asian Americans had to go through in their childhood and are still probably going through right now.
For sure, yeah.
Like I laugh at a lot of racist Asian jokes about our eyes, about how we love to eat with chopsticks or whatever stuff like that. And I laugh at a lot, like, you know, there's a picture of this Chinese boy
That's
or
racist,
something
yeah. That's the that's racist gif, yeah.
And no, like this Chinese boy who went to Africa or something to help the kids, but the kids were making fun of his slanted eyes.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
eyes. Sorry, I assumed you were talking about something else.
I mean, even now I still think that's very funny, but I get why people in America who are Asians would find a lot of offense in that.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is how it works with any ethnic majority. And you and I, we're Chinese. So in Singapore, we're the ethnic majority. So the ethnic minority is often made to feel less than by the ethnic majority. There are, like, elements of their culture or certain features that they have or traits that they have that are kind of used against them. And, like, because you do things differently from the way we do things, you're not as good as us. And that's a message that you hear a lot, you know. And I think that is really what a lot of the Asian American diaspora has had to deal with. And like what you're talking about, the cultural appropriation discussion with the Cheongsam, like, when we embrace our culture, we are mocked for it. But when you borrow an element of our culture, you are praised for it. How does that work out? And that's hurtful to them. And yeah, I think it's also important to remember that we are also a diaspora. Like, we are Chinese people, but we did not grow up in China. So our experience is different from a Chinese person in China, and it's different from a Chinese person in America. And it's different from a Chinese person in France. It's different from a Chinese person in the UK. It's different from a Chinese person in Australia. But there are a lot of things we do share and a lot of commonalities, and ultimately all ancestors did come from China. So yeah, I think like being able to reflect on that, and it is great that you kind of took the time to think about that and reflect on and reevaluate your take on certain issues concerning Asian Americans. It's just like how people said, people in Japan are not bothered by Scarlett Johansson as Motoko Kusanagi at all. It is the Asian Americans who are overreacting to that. Then you need to say why. Why does it hurt? Why is it perceived as a slight, as unfair? Why is this still happening? Like, blackface, there's a stigma attached to it. Has been for a long time. Brown face as well is like, no, don't do that. But yellow face, we still see that. We still see white people dressing up as Asians with makeup in movies. And it's like, there's so much surrounding context. And yeah, it is impossible to talk about this movie without discussing the politics. But this movie does invite that. It does want to open up a conversation. And I think a lot of people are coming to this movie having made up their mind, having decided you get what I mean, right? Having decided what the movie is without taking the movie on its own terms, without seeing what it has to offer. Because there are moments in this movie that made me very frustrated. And I'll be very honest, like when they cast Henry Golding, I felt like, okay, so to be a romantic lead as a man in a movie, you need to be at least half white. I get it, so I'm not attractive enough. People who look like me are not attractive enough for Hollywood. Fine. And like, you understand...
Steven Yeun is attractive though.
Sorry?
He's pure Korean, right? Steven Yeun.
Oh yeah, Steven Yeun. Yeah, he is attractive. He is pure Korean. And I mean, like, this whole thing about purity as well, like I talk about that a lot, but then I find it very uncomfortable. I don't want to sound like Harry Potter, pure blood and half blood and mud blood. And it's kind of like when you hear Henry Golding talk about his own heritage, talking about being Iban, coming from Sarawak, and he recently went through the whole rite of passage where they had to do the tattoo with the needle and everything, and he had that filmed for a travel show where he did the rite of passage of his tribe in Sarawak. And it's like, yeah, who are we to say that he is not Asian enough? So it's very, very nuanced, and it's understandable to be upset by this movie. I saw someone in a group, he's a Malay person, he said, I just want to get away from this piece of shit, and I...
Which I think is, I'll be on, okay, okay, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
I want to save that discussion for later, because it's a little bit, it's quite hard to do because we're both Chinese.
Yeah.
So... That part, I want to make sure we have a whole section dedicated to that and try to understand with our Chinese minds.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, because I don't want to say that they're wrong or they're right, because I don't think that this is a black and white situation.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
But yeah, let's go back to the movie.
How?
Yeah, how... Is there anything else you want to talk about? I realize that Pierre Peng is really ripped right now. I thought, in the trailer...
that was Henry
with
Golding.
His... Yeah, that was the shower scene. I thought that was Henry Golding.
Yes.
It was Pierre Peng. He's very
Yeah,
ripped.
it is.
I was very surprised by that. I think Astrid... Apparently, she has a very good storyline in the book. In this film, I thought it was very awkwardly placed.
Yeah, it's very shunted off to the side. Yeah, her subplot is way off to the side.
But what she said to Pierre Peng at the end, I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
There are moments in this movie where the female characters are absolute stone cold badasses. And I really, really enjoyed that. There are moments in this movie where you see people get their comeuppance, and I showed you, I've proved who I am to you, and then there's a lot of satisfaction in that.
Is there anything else you want to say in non-spoilers before we go into spoilers?
Yeah, okay.
I think everyone... honestly, I thought a lot of the acting was very wooden.
Yeah.
Do you feel that way?
Yeah, okay. It felt like... because we haven't had a Hollywood movie with an entirely Asian cast since the Joy Luck Club 25 years ago, the casting was an experiment. And it was we have to find people who are going to fit together. And this is the best we could do, because some of them do, some of them don't. But here's who we have, and we're gonna try and make it work. So, credit to them for that. But there were parts of it that were really awkward,
really bad.
where it was you're not related. You're not related. You're not in the same family. You've never seen each other at Chinese New Year. But
I kind of wish that this film had more of a, and again it's the book's fault, had more of an Arrested Development kind of feel, where the family is just wacky and fun, and then you have Henry Golding. Yeah, and you have Henry Golding, who is the most down to earth.
Yeah, he's the Jason Bateman of the family. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the casting, okay, who did I really like? I really like Sonoya Mizuno, the actress who played Araminta. So you might...
She surprisingly was not annoying.
She was really good. Yeah, you might know her as Other Robot in Ex Machina. Yeah. The Japanese robot who dances with Oscar Isaac in that amazing scene in Ex Machina. And she's a dancer, so the bit where she walks down the aisle and you sort of see her go on point is really, really graceful. Who else did I really liked Han King Hua in this movie, who played Rachel's mom, Carrie Chu.
Oh yeah, she's good in this.
There's a scene that they shared that I cried. That was the one time in the movie where I cried. Because there's a moment in the movie where she's kind of really down and the mom comes to cheer her up. And I felt that's what my mom would do, So that kind of resonated with me on that level.
I'm looking at the list to see who I like. I mean, except for the main three, of course. They're
the
pretty
the,
good.
the asshole characters were very entertaining.
See, I thought the only good one was the brother, the Eddie Chung character.
Yeah.
He's the only one that made me laugh, like consistently.
Optimal angles.
Yeah, when they were at the wedding, right?
Yeah, and he told all his kids
That
to
was
stay
amazing.
still for the photographer. And it's like, you see, if you wore the other dress, we would be an American Vogue, and now just in Hong Kong Vogue. And he's just like being awful to his wife.
Mm-hmm.
I like the auntie squad.
Oh, yeah.
Amy Cheng, Selena Tan, and Janice Koh, all Singaporean actors.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's a scene where they're doing Bible study, and I thought, like, that's very sly commentary on how there are people who are very materialistic, but they hide behind the veneer of religiosity. And that's kind of common among the rich people in Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, I feel like I've been cutting you off. Is there anyone else you wanted to highlight in the cast?
I haven't been cut off at all. Okay, let's just go into spoilers.
Spoilers for Crazy Rich Asians. Thanos kills everyone. No, he does not.
So at the end, he proposed to her, and I think that this scene is done so wonderfully because they set up the ring at first, the mom's ring.
Yeah.
And then she has a whole backstory on that, and then Henry Golding wants to propose to her, and he shows us the ring, and I have no idea why, but my head did not put like 2 and 2 together at the end when he wanted to propose to her again
in the plane.
And yeah, in the plane, because there's a lot of smokes and mirrors, like he's talking about how he wants to propose to her and whatever, and then he goes down on his knees,
to my spot on the island, whatever, yeah.
And you expect the ring that he's been showing, and it turned out to be Michelle Yeoh's ring.
Yes.
And the whole audience just gasped. I gasped.
Yeah.
Like, I was not expecting that at all. And the song that they chose was Yellow by Coldplay, but it's the Chinese version.
Yeah.
It's not really the Chinese version. They used the tune, but they changed the lyrics.
It's called Asteroid or Meteor. Liu Sing Sing, yeah.
And I think, like, the reason why this... I thought it was kind of funny at first because, yellow, and yellow is usually associated with Chinese people.
And that's why
or
he
Japanese
chose it.
and Korean.
That's why John Chu chose it.
Yeah. And it's because Warner Brothers did not want to give him the rights to that because they're afraid of the racist implications that it might have. And even Coldplay, the people who wrote Yellow, were unwilling to give him...
Oh, yeah. They freaked out because
song.
they have been culturally appropriating stuff before, like Hymn to the Weekend, things like that.
And I think... Okay, I have his letter right now over here. So I want to read it because I think... some of it, because I think it's so beautiful.
Yeah, let's go.
I know it's a bit strange, but my whole life I've had a complicated relationship with the color yellow. From being called the word in a derogatory way throughout grade school, to watching movies where they called cowardly people yellow. It always had a negative connotation in my life. That is, until I heard your song. For the first time in my life, it described the color in the most beautiful, magical ways I had ever heard. The colors of the stars, her skin, the love. It was an incredible image of attraction and an aspiration that it made me rethink my own self-image. I remember seeing the music video in college for the first time. That one shot with the sun rising was breathtaking for both my filmmaker and music-loving side. It immediately became an anthem for me and my friends and gave us a new sense of pride we never felt before, even though it probably wasn't even your intention. We could reclaim the color for ourselves and has stuck with me for the majority of my life. So he goes on to say, he wants to do it for Crazy Rich Asians. It would be such an honor to use your song that gave me so much strength throughout the years to underscore this final part of our film. And for me personally, it will complete a journey I've been going through, fighting to make it in the movie business. I know as an artist, it's always difficult to decide when it's okay to attach your art to someone else's, and I am sure in most instances you are inclined to say no. However, I do believe that this project is special. I do believe that this is a unique situation in which the first Hollywood studio film with an all-Asian cast is not playing stereotypes or side players, but romantic and comedic leads. It will give a whole generation of Asian Americans and others the same sense of pride that I got when I heard your song. I know it's recontextualized, but I think that's what makes it powerful. I want all of them to have an anthem that makes them feel as beautiful as your words and melody made me feel when I needed it the most. Like, that is such a beautiful letter.
Yeah.
And
it really, really is, yeah.
I chuckled the first time I heard this song played because I'm like, oh, this is tongue-in-cheek. But I did not know that he didn't mean it as a joke. He meant it as a statement.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful letter. And of course they said yes, and they rewrote the song. And I listened to the song, the lyrics, and it is very beautifully written. I love the song, by the way. So, but I'll be honest, I kind of like this version more, the Crazy Rich Asian version. It is so good. And I've got the artist who sang it, Catherine Ho, I think.
Yeah, she is 19 years old.
The singer.
To continue the trend of...
that's great.
Yeah, I know, right? That's amazing. No, and what is very interesting is that I continued, like, I read the rest of this story, and there's a whole second part to this story where she nearly didn't record it because she was busy with college. And she didn't know what it was for. And then she found out halfway that it was Crazy Rich Asians, and she freaked out because she said Constance Wu is my idol. And she had to work on the pronunciation, and she talked to her parents to fully understand the meaning because, like, she has been mainly speaking English, but she has also been singing in Mandarin. And I feel like everyone involved in this movie brings a part of their identity and a part of their struggle with their identity to it. Even the singer singing the cover of Yellow.
Okay, yeah. So that's really. What an amazing scene.
Yeah.
Like, I think the two standout scenes are definitely the wedding and the proposal scene, the second proposal scene. It just means so much.
Yeah.
And yeah, because even the scene that led up to that I thought was pretty good too, the mahjong scene.
The mahjong scene is incredible.
I'm not
I think that's my favorite scene in the film.
Yeah, because I forgot which article I read. My friend sent me this article where the mahjong that she threw out was a bamboo.
Yeah.
And then the article was saying how she's like a throwaway bamboo because she's from China and now she's thrown away. She forgot her roots. And that was like the significance of that towel. And so I thought like that was a really good interpretation of it.
Like my mom spotted, I mean, I don't know how to play mahjong, but my mom does. And there's a scene where there are two tiles that you kind of see in the middle of the screen, and one tile says east and one tile says west. And I was like, wow, you know. So there's like, this movie looks really, really superficial on the surface, but there's quite a lot that's hidden in there. And I mean the use of Yellow, like once I heard it, once I recognized the song as Yellow, I was like, I know what they're doing. I get it. I get why this movie is made. This movie is made as kind of like a reclamation. It's like you have used this as a slur against us all our lives, and now we're going to reclaim it, and it's going to be something beautiful. So yeah, like that really ties it together. And like any romantic comedy, I get very annoyed when there's an overuse of pop song covers because I sort of associate that with the genre of romantic comedies. And after a while, you're like, okay, we don't need so many songs. But this one, all of the songs they used were all very, very clever. And like, when they had Kina Grannis singing Can't Help Falling in Love with You during the wedding.
I have to disagree with all the songs being good. I thought I Can't Help Falling in Love with You and Yellow were good.
Right.
But a lot of songs felt very China more than it did Singapore. So that was like my problem with it.
Like, I mean, it begins with like a... Yeah, I think... I get what you mean. I think like the association of Shanghai jazz with high society, I think that is the association they were trying to make. Like there's a nightclub in Singapore called Shanghai Tang, and sort of that whole aesthetic of the bund, you know, like people dressed in suits and the women with the cheongsams and with their hair like very perfectly styled and singing songs in Chinese and jazz clubs. I think that is kind of the image they were going for, and they had that during the wedding reception where the whole jazz like bandstand they were all playing like a big band type. So I think that's what they were going for. So that didn't bother me.
Well, it bothered me, but it's okay.
Oh, no, I understand. Yeah, I didn't want to invalidate your
yeah.
opinion. I was just trying to come in with what I thought about it.
But I can't help falling in love with you. That was a beautiful scene. A little bit over the top, but I guess that's what Crazy Rich Asians do.
Absolutely, yeah. The movie opens with a quote by Napoleon, and I didn't like that. I was like, but it's not about China.
Yeah, it's not about China. This is not good. And the thing is, they've been to Singapore, so they know it's not in China.
And throughout the movie, there are lots of people pointing to maps to make sure that you know Singapore is not China. I thought that was very funny.
Indiana Jones maps.
Yeah, and then like the map on the handbag where Aquafina is pointing out like China is here. Then they came all the way down here, and she makes a very big show of that to show you that China is not Singapore.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of funny. Aquafina is so good in this movie, by the way.
She is very good.
She has such natural timing.
I really like the thing with Rachel's mom and Rachel not her lying to Rachel basically
about the background,
and learning why she
her
did
like
that.
Joy Luck Club backstory.
And it really is such an Asian response to what the grandmother did.
Yeah,
because it's still frowned upon that you have sex before you get married in Asia. I guess in Singapore at least.
Oh yeah.
And so this is not good for her, and I felt really bad for her at that time.
Yeah. But they did have a lot of sex before marriage in that 1 year.
Yeah.
They were having sex in the plane. Geez. They were having sex in Raffles Hotel.
It's odd. Okay, anyway.
All the New York scenes were shot in KL. I wanted to point that out.
Oh,
they didn't shoot a single scene in New York. Yeah, so the production just...
Poor KL.
Sorry?
Poor Malaysia. I think poor Malaysia. I think a lot of the film was filmed in Malaysia. In KL more specifically. Like the house is KL. A lot of the interior scenes are KL. But the outdoor scenes, when you see Singapore as it is, that's in Singapore, obviously. But most of it, I think, is shot in KL. Actually, which I feel really bad.
No, I'm gonna guess 40% Malaysia, 60% Singapore. I think that I'm gonna guess that's how it breaks down. Yeah.
Because I don't think it's cheap to film in Singapore.
No, not at all.
And you have to really, and you have to take note that they're filming in very crowded areas, and you need a lot of space for that. So you need to pay the hawker center, you need to pay for the license to be there, and I don't know whether it was cheap for them to film as much as they would in Singapore.
But I think the Singapore Film Commission and the Singapore Tourism Board were falling over themselves to facilitate this. Yeah.
Do you think it'll help at all?
Yeah.
This film?
I think there are...
It's really far though from America.
I think there are going to be Crazy Rich Asian tours. Just like when you go to Vienna and there's like a Sound of Music tour, but the people in people in Austria hate the Sound of Music because they don't look at it as an accurate representation of A, the story of the Von Trapps, B, their country. So they just kind of like grin and bear it and take tourists on these tours.
Yeah, I hate it though. Like, as in, I hate that we are so like, this movie probably means a lot to people, right? Like the Sound of Music films, probably inspired a lot of musical artists. Like, just be proud that your country contributed to someone's
It's
life.
a movie that means a lot to my mom. Yeah, and I mean that's kind of what we're gonna get with Crazy Rich Asians, is that a lot of people here really don't like it, and I think what they don't like is they don't like the idea of it. And they're like, I'm not touching the movie with a 10-foot pole. And because you're not doing that, your conceptions of the movie are based on the little bit that you've seen, based on like the trailer, the poster, things you've heard. But once you watch the movie and you sort of take it apart and you're not looking at it in a black and white kind of way, like, there are still things that are frustrating, but there are also things that are really amazing about this movie. There are things that this movie gets very, very right.
I just think the problem with a lot of people here who don't like the film, I mean, without even watching it, already have set in their mind that they would hate this film, is that they have zero empathy. Like, they really have zero empathy towards people who on what this film means to them. Because this film, as much as it is in Singapore, it really is an American Asian story. And a lot of Singaporeans fail to see that because all they see is, oh, there's the Malayan, oh, there's Newton Food Center, oh, there's the Marina Bay Sands, there's not Botanic Gardens,
Gardens by the Bay.
I forgot what that, Gardens by the Bay, yeah, thanks. And they only see that. So they think, oh, this is my story. This is my story.
Yeah.
How dare... I am not crazy. I am a little bit... Oh, no, hang on. I am a little bit crazy. I'm not rich. And I'm Asian. So where's my story? It's not your story. It is about an Asian American coming to Singapore to meet what could be her future mother-in-law. And her mother-in-law does not accept her because she's not Asian enough. Which is kind of ironic because I think that's how a lot of Singaporeans feel about this film.
Absolutely.
Because they look at it and they're like, that's not Asian enough for me. And okay, a lot of people are like, oh, this should be called Crazy Rich Chinese.
Yeah.
As if Chinese people aren't Asians, which is odd.
Crazy
okay,
Rich
it is
East
odd.
Asians. Yeah, I mean, like...
Yeah.
So, I totally get what you're saying, and I just kind of want to build on top of it. And, yeah, I think practically speaking... If you're making a movie, if Warner Brothers is making a movie specifically for Singapore, that's not very clever because Singapore is such a small film-going market. So I think...
We don't even support our own films.
Yeah, and I think what this movie is trying to do is that it is a very specific setting. Singapore is a very specific setting. And the circumstances of it are specific. But there are elements that everyone can relate to. And it's not because... It doesn't... I think people sort of decided that because I don't come from the same kind of background as the characters do, therefore I can't relate to their movie. But that's not true. I mean, I watched Star Wars and I didn't grow up on Tatooine or whatever, but I relate to characters in Star Wars. And I think, like, it's... You want to expand your horizons. You kind of want to open your mind and you want to look at it from someone else's shoes. And you want to see what it means to Asian Americans and what it means to Asians at large, because like if you think about it, the way people live in China now is very, very different from their ancestors hundreds of years ago as well. So there is a lot of tension around the world of the old versus the new ways, and that's one of the themes that is brought out. And I think like if you are Jewish, you can see that. If you're Italian, you can see that. And it doesn't have to be I'm not Asian, so this movie is not for me, or I'm not specifically this 0.1% of the income bracket in Singapore, so this movie is not for me. And when the trailer came out, like Alfian Sa'at, who is a very well-known playwright in Singapore of Malay heritage, he said, all the characters in this movie are just wannabe white people. And I could get why he said that, because they sound British or they sound American. But there's more to it than that, Like, when you look at it, the identity is such a big part of the discussion, of the conversation in the movie. What does it mean to belong? What does it mean to be qualified? How Chinese is Chinese? How Singaporean is Singaporean? How American is American? And that's kind of the struggle that a lot of Asian Americans feel, that they're caught between two worlds. They don't belong to the East, but they also don't belong to the West. So they're trying to carve out a niche for themselves, and they're trying to say, where do I belong?
Exactly. And I think it says a lot to it says that this film is very successful in giving us this conversation, if we are willing to start this conversation up. Like, because there are a few of my friends who said, oh, this movie is terrible.
Yeah.
And there are some of them that says, oh, this movie is really good, I really relate to it. And I realized that the people who said that they relate to it, they have lived in America, or they have lived in London, and they have felt that racism, I guess.
Yeah, they have been taken out from an environment where they were the ethnic majority and placed in an environment where they were the ethnic minority. Yeah.
And okay, we're going to politics now, I'm sorry, but
no, we have to. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's worth talking about.
I understand where Malays and Indians are coming from, and we are not Indians or Malays, so I don't want to try to put words in
Yeah,
their
just to
mouth.
clarify, Geraldine Kaur and Jedd Yong are not Indian and Malay.
Yeah, I understand why they're upset, and I do wish this film had more of our minorities in it, because this is Singapore,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's really hard for me to believe that there aren't crazy rich Malays or Indians living in Singapore.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And they do portray like the Chinese people in Singapore really badly. Like, we are too traditional, we are too crazy, and we are too snooty. So, you know, it's not exactly like a positive portrayal of us, but we are on screen.
Yeah, because like the heroine is Asian American, and one of the antagonists is Singapore Chinese culture, in a sense. That's what she's fighting against.
And I really wish they had those ethnicities there, because that's who we are. Because I see myself as Singaporean more than I see myself as Chinese. So it kind of upset me that this film that took place in Singapore did not embrace that part of me. Even though it embraces the Chinese part of me, but it doesn't embrace the Singapore part of me. And the worst part is that, you know, the Malays and the Indians seeing this, they are Singapore Indian or Singapore Malay, and they see none of that.
Yeah, that they've been that's what erasure
Even though this
feels
takes
like.
place
Yeah.
in their country. Yeah, and that, I mean, I think they're kind of gone though, right? But that takes place.
Sorry, what's kind of gone?
Sorry, the Eurasians
No,
are kind of gone in
erasure,
Singapore, aren't
as
they?
in being erased.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Like, this takes place in their country. They know what they see, but they don't see themselves, and they don't see the people that they usually see. They don't see the people that we usually see.
Yeah.
And you know, this is a country when I get out of my house, I see a church, and right next to the church I see a mosque, and right next to the mosque I see a temple. That's who we are.
Yeah.
And that is what makes me so proud to be a Singaporean, amongst
And like
other
a bit
things.
further afield, there's a
And-
synagogue, you know? Yeah.
And if I have any complaint about this film, and I have a lot, it's this part. Like, this is the part that hurts me the most when I'm watching it, because I'm like, this is so Chinese, and I have to admit, I don't really embrace the Chinese part of my culture as much as I should. But the Singapore part of me, I love it. Like, I love the Singlish. I love the Malayan stuff. I think Singapore is a very beautiful country. I know you don't, but
Yeah.
I think that Singapore is extremely beautiful. So it's really nice to see Singapore in that, like, film with that much of a budget.
Yeah,
And-
like presented in something that is not Agent 47 or equals.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah.
I totally understand where people are coming from in that. But at the same time, I just wish they realized that this is an Asian American movie first.
Yeah.
It is not an Asian
Yeah.
movie first. And I watched Dikosh. I love Dikosh. Like, he's extremely funny. He's an influencer on he's a Singaporean influencer, and I
radio
think
DJ. Yeah.
he had a lot of issues with this film. He did say that, you know, this is good for Hollywood, but I just wish I was part of it. Like,
No,
his
yeah,
Malay,
I'll-
is he
like-
Malay? Yeah, he's
He's
Indian,
He's
sorry, he's
half.
Indian.
Sorry, he's part Indian, and I think he might also be part Filipino, if I'm not wrong. If you're ever hearing this, sorry, Dikosh. Like I
I love your videos. I watch your vlogs. You complain that people don't watch your vlogs. I watch them. I love them.
like I'm
They
gonna
are
brag. I'm
continuing.
like 1 or 2 degrees away from Dikosh, because I work with Joshua Simon, who is a good friend of Dikosh's. Yeah, I mean, like, sorry, do you want me to jump in? Can I kind of talk about this?
Hang on. I want to say
Sorry,
something
yeah.
that kind of annoyed me about what he had to say, and I think he was just ignorant. He wasn't being racist, but
Who, Dikosh?
he was making
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
he was making fun about how a lot of songs, the American songs that they use, he's like, oh, why are they using American songs, you know, and then yellowifying them or yellow washing them. And I thought, well, then you clearly did not understand what this film was about.
Yeah.
Because them taking American English written songs and changing them to Chinese is basically what this film is.
Yes.
It's about the blend of both cultures.
Identity.
And that's who Rachel, like, he did not get that at all, and he was so upset because he's so blinded by the fact that there are no Indians or Malays in this film, which I understand. Like, I totally understand that part, but at least understand what this film is trying to do.
Yeah.
And to criticize them for yellow washing, even though I kind of find that extremely racist towards Asian Americans. Yeah, just... what are you talking about, man?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, to be brutally honest, I'm not a fan of the cautious movie reviews because he will put movie reviews on his Instagram, and then he has a lot of fans who will kind of accept it hook, line, and sinker, and they'll just be like, what Dkosh says is the law. So I remember when he reviewed Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, he didn't really like it. And then there were people in the comment section going like, yeah, I mean, what the hell is going on with the 5 post-credit scenes? Isn't that too many? And I was like, but that's the joke. So I feel like...
I think the problem is Singaporeans don't really understand subtlety.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think we're kind of like we want to settle for the easy answer. So if there's an answer that kind of satisfies certain criteria, we're like, okay, this sounds good, I'm going with it. And it pays to question, it pays to ask, you know, and to take things apart. And I mean, that's why I find being a film critic very rewarding. Because my job is taking things apart and not mainly to bring it down or to criticize it, but to sort of look at it and say, what works, what doesn't work, why? And
exactly, it's the deconstruction of the film.
Yeah, and that is a form of appreciation of art. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think movie reviews can't do that within like Insta stories, even though I kind of did that with Crazy Rich Asians. But here I am discussing about it.
We are on a show and there's like 2 hours that we're talking, and it's good. It's good.
I just wish he'd read up more because he's such a huge influencer in Singapore. And
it's a shame, you know.
His video title is so clickbaity. It's like, complaints of... I forgot what it's called. The problem with Crazy Rich Asians from a Singaporean or something like that. And it's so clickbaity, and I clicked on it because I like him and I wanted to see his point of view because I know he's going to talk about the race thing and I want to understand that more. And I completely understand why he was complaining about that. But where I disagree with him is the usage of the songs and why this film exists and why... Okay, fine. I disagree that the film only could use Chinese people because I think that's bullshit if you live in Singapore. And there's no way Henry Golding wouldn't have made like Malay and Indian friends in school and still be friends with them because that's exactly what I'm doing
even
now.
The guests at the wedding, like for sure there'd be a bunch of friends from other ethnicities.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the part where I just wish the film... It's so weird because like just get Indians and Malays, just tell them, hey, you want us to pay you $100 for a shoot? Just go to a wedding, dress nicely, and then just hold up a fake lantern or fake firefly.
There should be like there probably should be Indian dudes on the party boat, you know? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And like the worst part is the only time, I forgot, are they Malays or Indians? They're Malays, right? The guards.
The Sikhs. They're Sikhs, yeah.
Oh my god, I need to like get rid of the Sheiks.
edit button.
Yeah, and I found that kind of racist though, because like of all things to give them, you give them this scary role.
Yeah.
You know, they're in their turbans as if Americans aren't scared of people in turbans.
That kind of made me uncomfortable, but at the same time, it is true that a lot of the guards and doormen in Singapore are Sikhs, like traditionally.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that if they had more minorities to show the
flesh it out. Yeah, so I had a Malay friend who was very upset that the character Princess Intan is played by a Filipino actress. So there's a character whom in the movie, like I think one of the best moments in the movie is Rachel. This character is sort of feared by everyone because she's a princess, but Rachel goes and talks to her because the princess is also an economist. And she talks about an article that she wrote about microloans in a journal and was able to discuss something, a shared interest and a shared like field of expertise with her. So that character could have been played by a Malay actress, but At the same time, the movie does not specify where she is from. They just say Princess Intan. So I think like there is when people say, oh, this is definitely a Malay character, I don't think that's necessarily true. But the character could have been played by a Malay actress. It did not have to be played by a Filipino actress. So yeah, I mean, for all we know, Princess Intan is from a fictional country. But the way she was dressed and like the way she spoke, I thought she was Indonesian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think like that's kind of the thing people are saying, like, oh, the one character you had who could have been played by a Malay actress was played by a Filipino actress instead. So I understand the frustration there, but at the same time I don't think the movie said hard and fast that she was Malay.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I thought she was Indonesian too.
Yeah, because like the Indonesian Chinese are very, very rich and a lot richer than the Singaporean Chinese. Is it okay if I jump in now with
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I think like I really, really appreciated hearing your perspective and the hearing out the frustrations that people have had with this movie. And I think like I get it, and I agree with you. Singapore as we see it is not what it looks like in the movie. The movie is not an accurate representation of Singapore. But I don't think the movie is intended to be an accurate representation of Singapore. And at the same time, I feel like this is the problem with lacking representation. Because there hasn't been a movie with an all-Asian cast from Hollywood in 25 years. Once one comes along, a lot of hopes are placed onto it. A lot of expectations are placed onto it. And a lot of people want to see themselves represented in it. And that's fair. But that is also a byproduct of there being not enough. So my hope is that after Crazy Rich Asians, there are a lot of movies that tell a lot of different stories of a lot of different kinds of people made by Hollywood, and it can be an American perspective, but they can go to other countries to shoot, and they can use the actors from those other countries, and eventually there will be, I hope, more opportunities for non-East Asian people to be in movies. And if you look at the Indonesian or Malay actors who are making it in Hollywood now, if you look at like Iko Uwais and Joe Taslim, they are in Hollywood in the capacity of action stars because they came from The Raid. So when they are in a movie, it's advertised as this is the guy from The Raid. And that kind of mirrors Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, Jet Li, decades ago. So that was how East Asian people kind of entered Hollywood. But that's only the first step. After that, there will be, and I think like Crazy Rich Asians will play a part in it. After that, there will be roles that are non-stereotypical. There will be roles beyond I can do martial arts. And I hope that that's where we are headed for non-East Asian people, in addition to East Asian people.
Well, I would agree with you, but the problem is it's in Singapore. So that's my biggest issue with it.
Yeah.
That you chose a very diverse, like an easy way to get different people, different Asian groups together, and you chose to just stick to Chinese and sometimes Korean.
And like, I mean, Sonoya Mizuno is half British, half American, half Japanese. Nico Santos is Filipino. So I think like the way it breaks down is kind of like, I don't want to be...
You look Chinese.
Yeah. And I don't think that in itself is a horrible idea, because like Benedict Cumberbatch plays Doctor Strange. But at the same time, it is the frustration of seeing like how Hollywood handles a predominantly Asian cast and the difficulty in that. Because I mean, even if you go back to Joy Luck Club, like some of the actors in it were Vietnamese and some were Japanese. Tamlin Tomita is Japanese. And I think... Sorry, go ahead.
I don't mind that they chose like Asian groups that kind of look like Chinese people.
Yeah, I don't mind that either.
I think my problem is they gave roles to people who look like Chinese people and not anything else.
I see, yeah,
like,
I get
they
what you mean.
didn't give Malays or they didn't give Indian roles to people who I guess have similar color skins, I guess, to pass off as different race groups, or even have their own race groups in there. Like, I don't understand why, of all places to choose, you chose a country that enjoys being as diverse as we are. I mean, that's from a Chinese point of view. Racism does exist here.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And we the problem with us is that we don't see it because
we're the ethnic
we are
majority.
the majority. yeah, and like I understand like the little things count. Like for example, you go to Crazy Rich Asians, you see Chinese subtitles, you don't see anything else. If you're Indian, you know, I mean, I understand why, but like the Prime Minister doesn't speak Tamil, even though he speaks Malay. He has a Malay speech, he has a Chinese,
Yeah, for the
sorry,
National
a
Day
Mandarin
rally.
speech and
Yeah,
English speech.
absolutely.
Yeah, for the National Day rally, like I understand like those little things
that make
like,
you
will
feel
prick at you
excluded.
and they'll annoy
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, I totally understand that, but you know, we do try like on the facade we embrace all cultures, right? We embrace our Indian friends, we embrace our Malay friends, and I wish that even at that shallow part we embrace that in a story that takes place in Singapore. But instead we went along and we casted like Koreans and Japanese, and we left our Malay and Indian friends
Yeah,
behind. Not us.
Not
we didn't
no,
create
they,
this film, but
Warner Brothers and Color Force made this film.
Kevin Kwan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like the important thing to I totally get what you mean, and I agree with you. But I think like where this comes from is it comes from Kevin Kwan, and it comes from Kevin Kwan's background. And he grew up and he went to ACS and he went to school with a lot of people who were very, very rich. So this was like he was writing from the world that he saw.
He's from ACS.
I think that's the school he went to.
He doesn't look like an ACS boy at all. Okay.
But like I mean the stereotype in Singapore is that ACS boys are very, very rich, right? And they come from very rich families. And there's also that whole idea of, like, I love the scene where Janice Koh says, oh, this wedding costs 40 million. We're Methodists. Our limit is 20 million. And I thought that was very funny. Mm-hmm. Like, the idea of materialism and religion. And, yeah, so I think, like, this, it's I'm not going to say it's his fault, but it comes from the source material. And there is an inherent flaw in the source material. So I hope that this criticism is taken on board for China Rich Girlfriend, but the title indicates that there might not be as much room for ethnic minorities as we hope there will be. But at the same time,
I mean, honestly, you could have just like switched the best friend's ethnicity. Just make him Malay, make him Indian, change the wedding scene.
I think like
I don't know. I feel like that wouldn't really affect it because it's a very American wedding though. Like they got married in a church, so like I don't see how that. It's not like you're taking away something Chinese. So just add in another culture to it, and I think it should be okay.
Yeah, I get what you mean, and I'm not trying to invalidate your opinion, but I think the bottom line is don't write the movie off because this is something that makes you sad, that you're justifiably upset or angry about. But that doesn't mean the movie is complete trash. That doesn't mean the movie is worthless.
Yeah.
And I would implore people to give the movie a chance in that way. And I'm sure like people will say, oh, easy for you to say you're Chinese. Yeah, I'll give you that, fine. But there's a lot of worth to it beyond that, you know. And I know that it's frustrating to see a Singapore that doesn't look like the Singapore we know in terms of the ethnic makeup, in terms of the people that are in the streets, in the crowd scenes, in terms of the groups of friends that people have, that doesn't reflect how we know it to be. And that's frustrating to us. But it's also important to have the empathy for the Asian Americans that this movie is a primary audience. So I think that's a pragmatic way to look at this movie's shortcomings and how this movie is a step forward, but it's also a step back. But in the grand scheme of things, I think it is a much bigger step forward than it is a step back.
I agree.
Yeah, I think...
I really wish they added like a minority group inside.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they just didn't do that.
And I mean... Yeah.
I'm just in the background. Like
Yeah, and I mean like Princess Intan totally could have been played by a Malay actress. We have so many Malay actresses who could have played that role. So I think that about wraps it up for Crazy Rich Asians. Is there anything else that you want to say? Sorry, my family is calling me to go for dinner.
Oh, okay. What else is there to say? I think it's an okay film.
Yeah.
But I'm really, just like Black Panther, I thought it was an okay film as well. But I'm glad the people who this film is targeting, they are responding to it so well, and
that
I'm
it
so
means
happy
something
for them,
to them.
that they see something in a film.
And
I think that
it, yeah.
if you manage to change make a film that means so much to someone, I think that's so much better than that has to be so fulfilling, right? As a filmmaker.
Yeah, that means something. Like John Chu has achieved something. And he may not have achieved it in a way that pleases everybody or in a way that even we would have liked to have seen. But this movie did get something done. And I hope that as people criticize it, and as people justifiably bring up the problems that it has, they don't take that away. You know, because that is so precious.
Yeah.
That is so precious to the movie, to the people to whom this movie means the most.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
all.
I just want to say, Sound of Music is amazing. And if you don't like it, well, that's fine. Everyone has their own opinion.
So yeah, I mean, eventually, you know, come to Singapore, take the Crazy Rich Asians tour, and also get to appreciate the parts of our culture that are not Chinese.
Also, Newton Food Center, not the best food center. It really is.
No. Nelson, yeah, I left this out earlier. Nelson Coates said that he chose it because there was food all around, and he wanted to get a surrounding, like, 360-degree shot of food. Yeah.
Oh.
Because
Alright.
in the
Okay,
book, it's
fine. That makes
in the book it's
sense.
Lau Pa Sat, but Lau Pa Sat is even worse than Newton Food Center.
What's your favorite food
Don't
center?
get Singaporeans talking about food. I like Maxwell. I like Amoy. Yeah, Maxwell because of the chicken rice, right? And there's a bunch of other things there as well. There's also a very good like British food store called Lad and Dad that serves like British pub food.
Oh yeah, I heard of that.
Yeah, so I do
Yeah.
like Maxwell a lot. Yeah.
Well, mine is like the Bukit Batok food center. I'm not sure what it's called. It's like, oh sorry, not Bukit Batok, the Bedok food center. Oh my god, it's
Was it
so
Bedok
good.
Bedok
I love that
Marketplace?
I think so. It's like right next to the Bedok Mall.
Oh, okay.
I travel all the way there just to eat it. And Changi Airport Food Center is really good.
Yeah,
Or Changi Road or
I
something
like Old,
that. I forgot
Old
what
Airport
it's
Road,
called.
right?
Old Airport,
Yeah. I used to go to school around there, so I ate there a bunch as well. Yeah, that's fun. I mean, get Singaporeans talking about food, you know. That's you got to get Singaporeans talking about food, and then you will not be able to get a word in edgewise.
Although I think Malaysian food is better, but that's because they don't care for our health. So that's like,
Hey, I will neither agree nor disagree with this statement, and we'll leave it there.
I'm half Malaysian. I can't help it. Okay, bye guys.
All right, thank you so much, Jerry. Yeah, thanks for listening. Bye bye.